We think about our educators and our leaders and how they've had to try to navigate this pandemic with remote learning. It's such a tough time for so many of these superintendents. And to talk more, let's bring in Dr. Tina Kerr. She's the Executive Director for the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. Great to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I know, I believe the first time we spoke with you, you were recently appointed. How are things going?
They're going. I did not expect to still be in COVID after our last discussion, but as you said, we're a year into this and we're continuing to move forward.
But we've learned a lot of things as well. It's been a year of learning, right?
We sure have learned. And you know, this has also created opportunities. And I appreciated hearing what you said about Ford, because we ourselves as an association have really had to look at how we deliver our professional development and our services. And I think we're going to make some changes for the better because of COVID.
What are some of those changes do you anticipate?
Very similar to the idea of a hybrid model. Most of our professional development, we've always offered face-to-face and in person. And we were concerned that you lose some of that rich discussion when you're in a remote environment. But having done this for the last year, we found that we can still be very productive. We can increase the networking, the learning can occur, and it's more on-demand learning, which is very beneficial. It's so hard for our district leaders to leave their district to go get professional development and have that time away from their district. And now by looking at hybrid models, we can kind of have the best of both worlds. They can still be in-house in their district, still learning, but then they do have those opportunities in the hybrid to come face-to-face and work with colleagues from around the state so that they get that other perspective as well.
So, and Dr. Kerr, how does your association work? Is it membership-based?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we have, for the most part, 95% of the public school superintendents in the state are members of our association. And then we also cater to what we call central office administrators. That's that first line assistant or a deputy curriculum director, business manager. And then we also have a membership for executive assistant secretaries. So the superintendent secretaries are able to come together and learn from each other as well. So we provide all the professional development, the support. We kind of have three arms to our association. One is focused on communication. We really had to change how we communicate with our members during COVID and created a COVID resource page and really tried to ensure our members had all the information they needed to meet the new changes, the standards. Continuity of learning plans was a huge lift for our districts to move forward. And then we have our policy and our legislative arm that supports legislation and policy development that support our members in our school districts. And the last piece, as I said, is that professional development, which is a big part of what we do.
Well, we have learned that we cannot educate and go on like we used to. This year has really, taken like the tree and shake the leaves off to say, hey, it's time to realign and redesign who you are and how we teach our kids. So as you were saying, you are also an advocate and with the lawmakers. School funding, how do you think that's going to change coming out of the pandemic?
Well, it has to change. And the one thing I've said about the pandemic is there is a silver lining because education has typically not been real nimble in how it changes instructional delivery, how we structure our school settings. And the pandemic has taught us that we have to. The other big issue that we've uncovered we knew was a problem was the equity gaps that exist in education. The pandemic showed a spotlight on that. So we can't go back to the way we've always educated children, the way we funded schools. That's going to have to continue to be a priority moving forward. We're in partnership with several groups, one of which is Launch Michigan, which is a coalition of business leaders, philanthropy, and educators around the state. And our main focus is how do we change the funding structure to ensure our students are getting all the resources that they need, especially now, because we know we are going to have to I call it delayed learning, but we're going to have to help our students be successful moving forward, because we will see the repercussions of this pandemic for the next several years.
So what do you think that model could look like, or how would you like it to look?
We've really focused on, there was a large financial study called SFRC that was done several years ago. And one of the things that it showed us is that each student costs differently to educate, whether you're special needs, you're an ELL student. You cannot do a carte blanche student formula to say, I'm going to educate Johnny in District A who has no special needs, no underlying issues that he's dealing with at the same cost that I may have to for a student that has high needs. So we really are looking for a funding structure that will continue to support the needs of the student, and the money will be there to ensure that they have the resources that they need to be successful in their environment.
Dr. Tina Kerr with us here on the MegaCast. She's the Executive Director for the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. We are seeing one issue that some of the school districts are facing right now, of shortage of employees, teachers and bus drivers and so many other employees as well. What do you think that's looking like this school year into next?
Well, this is not a new problem. This is a problem that's been an issue for the last couple of years. At MASA, we put together district leaders from around the state to focus on educator shortage. Now, the educator shortage has compounded into substitute shortages and principal shortages, and now we're seeing a significant number of shortages in the superintendent position as well. So we have to be creative, and we've been in partnership with MDE, who's been very instrumental in trying to reduce some of the barriers that exist in encouraging young people to get into the field of teaching. And we work closely with the Michigan Education Association, the AFT. We all are trying to do the same thing, and that is, how do we attract young people to this profession? And what do we need to do to ensure that it is a profession that they can be proud of? The conversation around education has not always been positive, and I think the pandemic has showed families that they need their teachers. They don't want to be homeschool teachers. And so we've worked really hard to try and be creative. You're seeing lots of new cadet programs and a lot of innovation around the state with our districts. How do we grow our own? How do we start to put people in these positions? Because it is a major problem, and it's only going to continue to compound.
And you add to that, too, trying to diversify your workforce as well.
Absolutely. Again, equity issues exist in our workforce also. We need to be thoughtful in how we recruit and how we retain educators into the profession, for sure.
So is there some type of program or some thought being done to come up with a substitute program? So maybe, someone went to college and has a degree in business, but yet not in teaching. Is there a program or a way for them to get certified but not go back to college?
Absolutely. That is one of the areas that we've been, as I said, Michigan Department of Ed has been very instrumental in how do we reduce those barriers. So you have a highly qualified business person that maybe has a math background. What do we have to do to ensure that they could go be a math teacher? We still have to get into the pedagogy and help support them of what learning looks like in that math classroom, but their experience and their expertise is something that they already have. So how can we expedite those? You've seen Detroit Public Schools is doing a very similar type grow your own program. We've seen a lot of parapros who may have only had their associate's degree going back and doing programming with different universities in partnership with universities and college to expedite them to get to that teaching certificate. Everyone is trying to work together and is really trying to be very innovative in how do we encourage people that may have never thought they could go be a teacher because they had to spend a year of student teaching or had to take a set number of classes. Those are the types of barriers that we're trying to reduce to ensure that we get the workforce we need moving forward.
One thing, as you were saying, with the pandemic, there are conversations that are being had with so many different groups, especially some of the unions, who, let's say if this was 2 years ago, these talks would have been off the table.
Absolutely. Our union leaders have been tremendous partners, and they understand we have a problem. It only helps all of us if we work together to ensure that we can fill these positions. Many of our positions were unfilled 2 years ago, and now it's just gotten even worse during the pandemic. So it takes all of us working together in one effort to try and build back our educator workforce.
Dr. Tina Kerr with us here on the MegaCast. She's the Executive Director for the Michigan Association Superintendents and Administrators. Boy, what a year it's been with the lawmakers as well. Everyone has their 2 cents in this issue about remote learning, taking kids, putting them back in the classrooms, not in the classrooms. How does that conversation go in Lansing with your organization?
Well, first and foremost, I have to commend all our districts and all our members across the state. This has been a tremendous challenge, and everyone is working so hard to try and ensure that our students are getting the appropriate education. If I look back last year in March, we were scrambling. Everyone was trying to figure out, what does this look like? Our poor teachers were, I haven't had to deliver this lesson, remotely. How does that look? How does that change? But everyone really dug in. And if you think about, we didn't have a summer this year. It was every district was working so hard. And as we look to the fall, many of our districts in the state were able to come back, and some have been operating since September. It just depended on their particular area and how the virus was being contained. And I will say that they've been doing all this under a tremendous amount of pressure from the public. Everyone wants the kids to go back to school. Every educator wants them to go back to school, but safely. And so we have to remember that this is not a one-size-fits-all. We have to put all kids back at a certain day. We have been very strategic in how we encourage and help support districts to bring their students back. So it has been a challenge, but they've risen to the occasion, and I think we're in such a good position moving forward.
Well, let's hope so. And it's like you said, it's like they couldn't win with some people, but what's happening in my household may not be what's happening in your household. And so there is no one answer for every family out there. But like you said, I think so many parents now appreciate not only our educators, but also all of the members that work for the school district, because it takes everyone working together. Some of these bus drivers are working crazy hours right now with the hybrid situation going on.
Of our support staff have worked way outside their job descriptions. Bus drivers becoming food delivery, bus drivers becoming a hotspot for internet, parking buses in neighborhoods. Our kitchen staff now, they're delivering or they're putting together lunches to make sure that they get students fed. Everyone has just gone above and beyond their original expectation for the position, and they've done it sometimes at their own risk of safety, and they've just put the kids first. And our front line in education has just really answered the call to support our kids, and we'll keep doing that for sure.
Well, we are also appreciative of all of their efforts, because we know they have been working around the clock for the past year now. Dr. Tina Kerr with us here on the MegaCast. Just another minute or two here with you on the show before we try to take the governor's press conference. Anything we didn't add that you want to share with our listeners and viewers before we say goodbye?
I just want to add that one of the things we're doing at the association is we're shifting to post-pandemic. It's time now for us to move forward. What does the new educational landscape look like? We've assembled over 50 administrators, 20 partners. We've got a work group of over 75 people that have come together. What would promising practices look like in classrooms moving forward? What would extended learning look like? How do we ensure educator evaluations are still a productive way of analyzing how our students are doing? And then the biggest thing that we've also focused on is social emotional learning. This pandemic has definitely hurt our students and our staff And so this work moving forward, it's time for us to shift gears and turn the page. And what does education in Michigan look like post-pandemic?
Oh, and no easy answer there. So it's going to be a lot, just like this past year, trial and error.
It absolutely is. It's a heavy lift, but everyone is committed to ensuring that we don't go back, that we create what our new normal will look like for kids moving forward.
Well, and lessons learned during all of this as well. Let's hope we come out stronger and better on the other side.
I have no doubt we will.
Dr. Tina Kerr with us here on the MegaCast, Executive Director for the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. We so appreciate your time this morning and hope things are going well there in your new position.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate being here.